Hey there, this is Chad from Zombie Fight Shark. Welcome back to Too Many Plugins. This is episode 5, part 5, Ableton edition. We're talking about operator. If you have not seen the other parts, I recommend you go back and watch them because we are going through each individual section of the operator and discussing what every single knob and button does. In section 1, we discussed the oscillator. In 2, it was the envelope and oscillator window. In 3, LFO window. In 4, the filter and the filter window. And now in part 5, we're going to discuss the pitch envelope and its applicable window. So if you have not seen these other things, then I recommend go watch them because we'll blow through a couple of parts as we've already touched on them multiple times in the previous videos. So let's talk about this thing. So we're back to our default patch, and this is very similar to the filter and especially the LFO. You can see how the two of them look a lot alike. All right, so we're not going to go over some of the same concepts again, but real quickly, there's only a button and three knobs to turn here. So let's talk about this little dude here. So pitch envelope, how much does it have an effect, and which way does it affect the pitch? So down sweeps up, up sweeps down. So down sweeps up sweeps down. Makes total sense. You got that right. Actually, it depends on the over here. It depends on what you got going on. However you have this set up, it's gonna change. It's gonna change the effect of up and down. So just be aware that you can affect that multiple ways. So that's the amount of effect it's going to have. Spread, stereo. How is it in stereo? So I honestly don't use the pitch envelope a lot. I just don't have a lot of cause for it in a lot of stuff I do, but I do use the spread knob because it instantly puts your patch in stereo. So very, very useful. And then the last one, transpose. So if you just needed to transpose your masterpiece by a few steps, then there you go. It's just a quick and easy way to transpose stuff. And that can come into play once you start messing with the envelope. It can get hairy and weird sometimes where you're trying to get something to land on a pitch. Sometimes that transpose button knob comes in handy to fix problems like that. All right, let's jump over here to the window. ADSR, attack, decay, sustain, release. So there it is. We know what those do. Just now they're not applying to volume, they're not applying to filter, they're not applying to the LFO. This is another ADSR, and now it applies strictly to the pitch envelope and messing with the pitch. The attack, how you've got two things going on here. Your initial actually matters a lot in this one. So does your sound start at at the 0 point where it's in tune, or does it sweep up or down? Something to be aware of. How quickly does it sweep up and down, or decay, as the case may be. And so yeah, that initial, that really matters, because really quick attack, and then the peak is 23 steps, so it's taking forever to have its effect. And remember when I said this negative and positive, up is down and down is up? So see, my envelope is 26 steps in the positive, but my peak is 26 steps in the positive, but my envelope is negative 67%. So I'm having the inverse effect of what I would expect to happen over here because I've applied the pitch envelope in a negative way. So pretty much instant attack, and then it's all decay. All right, so sustain, again, this is in steps. So how many steps is it dropping or raising? So again, I think this makes more sense when you play with it. And then time, we'll do that last. Loop, we know what this does. And, you know, like we talked about before, you get into loop here, then loop a filter, then loop an LFO, then you can individually loop all of your oscillators. Number one, that patch is going to take up a bunch of CPU power, but that aside, you can have what sounds like, I mean, like it's like an Absinthe level patch. If you're familiar with Absinthe synthesizer, it's amazing. Like the stuff you can do it's pretty sick. How complicated it can get, and the sounds you can get out of this little dude. So don't forget to loop it, and then of course we got all the different settings: the loop, beat to stay in time. Sync, so everything is in time, and then trigger, again, if you're doing drums, trigger is the way to go. And then end, does it sweep up or down at the end, or does it land back on home? And you hear it sweep up right there, whoop, right at the end. Let's change the release. Oh, you know what? All right, so release here. You got to have all your releases, they all affect each other. So if I have a 2-second release here, and then I have like, now we can hear that release. So again, this is I told you before, I'd get into the weeds and I'd be like, why isn't this patch doing the thing I want it to do? It's because everything affects everything in this. And then, you know, we haven't even gotten to this. Oh, this madness here. It's sick. Destination, you know, your 4 different oscillators. I think we all understand what that does now. So if you wanted to individually affect some of them, so you know, that sounds something like this. So it's affecting A and C, B and D don't have anything going on with them. And maybe this is a better illustration. So you can get some fun stuff going on there. I think you can use your imagination. LFO's grayed out here, but if you turn that LFO on, then that turns, this LFO is now available. And it's because when that's active, the pitch envelope affects the LFO up here. I mean, it's getting weird. So it can just have so many effects, so many things going at one time. I think this is the point where my brain starts struggling to keep up as to what's affecting what and how, because there's just so many things happening at one time. But that's what it does. So when that LFO is on, then it activates this button, and that means that the pitch envelope is affecting the LFO up here. All right, then you have a destination B. So if you want this pitch envelope to also affect your filter, for example, first we'll turn the filter on, and you can use it as an alternate way to affect the filter. So let's try to make it obvious with a pretty fast attack and a big peak. Yeah, you can hear it. And it goes negative. So there you go. Same thing here. And that gets back to, sound like Godzilla. That gets back to negative number here, positive number here, pitch envelope is a negative or positive number. And all of those things can flip your sound on its head, and it can be out of tune, and you'll be like, why is this out of tune? What's going on? So just be aware. Glide. Let's put the pitch back to 0 and maybe get rid of some madness here. So if you're trying to create a patch that you want, you know, a lead that you want to slide between the notes or something like that. And here it's easier illustrated when it's monophonic. So that's it. It's glide. You know, that's nothing new for anybody, I don't think. A really long glide. So, again, it's getting weird, man. It's getting weird. So play with them. Play with all these settings. Remember, back in part 1, we created some patches. I hope you did. Just messing with your oscillator. Then we played with the different waves, and then we added LFO and we added filter. Now open those up again and create a 5th version of them, and play with these pitch envelopes a little bit and see how weird you can make it. In the last section, we're going to talk about the matrix here, this matrix of your different frequency modulation patterns, and then all your connections and amounts and redirecting, and it's gonna be the final level of weirdness before my head explodes. So I really hope you've enjoyed this. Please like and subscribe if this is useful to you, because that lets me know that I should do more of this type of thing. And I can't wait for you to come back for the next one. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Cheers. Thanks for listening.